So, with the first pick in the draft, Cincinnati's on the clock. I don't think a trade's going to happen here. And I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to go and get Joe Burrow, quarterback at LSU. Uh, he has high football IQ. He makes all the throws on the field he needs to. Um, and as we saw last year for LSU, he was absolutely dominant, especially against Oklahoma and even against Clemson. But throughout the entire season, he was absolutely consistent on the football field, being accurate, and he's the surefire number one pick for the Bengals at number one. On to number two, with none other than the Washington Redskins. The Redskins are an interesting position, but I don't think they'll overthink this one. They'll go after the best player in the draft in Chase Young, defensive end out of Ohio State. He's athletic, he's fast, he's powerful, he's an elite edge rusher, and the Washington Redskins would be very lucky to have him at number two. On to number three, where I'm going to project a trade with the Miami Dolphins and the Detroit Lions. The Dolphins will be trading up for none other than Tua Tagovailoa. If the Dolphins are truly all in on Tua, then they'll move up to get their guy. I'm projecting them being able to use the 18th pick and the 26th pick, as well as perhaps a future second rounder and maybe a little bit more to trade up to get Tua here. If they can do that, then they wouldn't have to give up number 5, and they could always trade back from 5. So here at 3, Tua's the man. If he wasn't injured, he could be in the running for the first overall pick for the best quarterback in the draft. He's an elite deep ball passer. He's better than Burrow in that aspect. He can run. He can pass. He's been regarded as a left-handed Drew Brees, but really the only concern is his injury history. But if the Dolphins are comfortable with him at number 3, they will be lucky to go up and get him. On to number 4. No trades here. I want to keep it pretty simple. Isaiah Simmons to the Giants. They could have gone offensive tackle too, but I think Simmons just really fits what they're trying to do on their defensive in their defense. He can line up as a linebacker, he can play in the slot, he can be an edge rusher, and he can play at both safety positions. He's just a defensive freak. He has an elite athleticism, and that allows him to basically cover anyone. He's fast, and he's a great player. As I said, he can probably play in the linebacker, safety. He can play all over the football field, so he'd be great for that Giants defense. On to number 5, where I'm projecting another trade. This time it's with Tampa Bay. So the Dolphins, if they were able to keep this pick and trade up to number 3, they could trade back with Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay can move up to number 5 to get their offensive tackle to really help protect Tom Brady. With Tom Brady, picking Tom Brady up in free agency, they're in win now mode, meaning they need to protect him to give him the amount of time in the pocket that he get as much time in the pocket as he can get, especially in that Tampa Bay offense where a lot of it rests on downfield throws, especially to Godwin and Evans. And really, if you watched Tampa Bay last year, you saw Jameis Winston throwing the ball a lot, very very far downfield. So Brady needs that time in the pocket, and I think Wirfs is the perfect guy to do it. You can't go wrong with Wirfs, Brown. You can't go wrong, with Wirfs, Andrew Thomas, or Jedrick Wills. But I think they'd go Wirfs here, as he can play both right and left tackle, and he's a great athletic ability. The only downside on him is sometimes with speed rushers around the edge, he can sometimes be off balance, and he sometimes struggles. But Wirfs here for number 5 is a great player to protect Tom Brady, and with Brady there for probably 2 years, maybe a little bit more, the Buccaneers need to give him all the weapons they can and all the protection up front they can to help him. On to number 6, with the Chargers. I think it's going to be Justin Herbert here. It's probably a little bit early for him. There's been some speculation that it could be someone else, but after all, I don't think they want Tyrod Taylor as their quarterback going into 2020. At 6'6", he's a great height for a quarterback. He probably has the biggest arm in the draft. He can make almost every throw off balance. And he can run, he can pass. The only problem with him is that he was really inconsistent, even though he started for 4 seasons. And sometimes he struggles on those shorter to intermediate throws, which are the throws that Burrow and Tunga Vailoa and even Jordan Love really, really do well with. So Herbert here, he kind of reminds me of Josh Allen, but he'd be a really good player to lead those Chargers and try and fill those big boots of Phillip Rivers. On to number 7. For me here was between Okudah and Derrick Brown. I just think Derrick Brown fills a bigger need. I know they lost James Bradbury, but they lost both of their starting defensive tackles, and they were awful in the run game, stopping the run game last year. Derrick Brown can do it all. He's probably the third best prospect in this draft, or a top 3 prospect in this draft. He can play anywhere along the D line. He basically, at least in college, he always needed a double team to stop him, and he's just explosive, dynamic, and would really help out that Panthers D line. Look for the Panthers to target a corner in the second round. On to number 8, Jedrick Wills of Alabama. We know that Alabama is renowned for making really good football players, and Jedrick Wills is definitely one of those good football players. Arizona, after getting DeAndre Hopkins through a trade with the Texans during free agency, needs to really open up that offense and allow Kyler Murray time in the pocket. They did re-sign DJ Humphries to a big deal, but they need someone opposite him in Jedrick Wills. He's a dominant run blocker. He's super athletic, and he plays with a chip on his shoulder. So I think Jedrick Wills is the pick here. You could see Andrew Thomas maybe here, and they don't actually have to go offensive tackle. I just think offensive tackle is probably their biggest need, but I think Wills fits the description they want. So Jedrick Wills, 8 to the Cardinals. On to number 9, with Jeffrey Okudah falling. And, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars needing a corner after trading away A.J. Bouye and trading away Jalen Ramsey. Jeffrey Okudah is a steal here at 9. Okudah is... he's just the definition of confidence. He is the best coverage corner in the draft, and it's by a long shot. He's the right size, and he has the right quickness for an NFL corner. And maybe the one knocking him, he could be better in run support. But Okudah at 9 is an absolute great pick. On to number 10, I'm projecting a trade with the Cleveland Browns. I think the need for a cornerback for the Atlanta Falcons is very high. And C.J. Henderson is a great player to fill that gap that Desmond Trufant leaves in that defense. C.J. Henderson is an excellent corner from Florida. He is able to get the job done, and he can definitely be that first round talent that Atlanta's looking for. They'd probably have to give up around probably just under maybe a first round pick, future first round pick to trade up to here. But I think it's worth it for them. He's a great size and speed that NFL teams are looking for. And he doesn't panic. He's great recovery speed. Like, he's the perfect guy. He's the clear number 2 corner in the draft. So Atlanta, I think, trading up here to get a guy that they desperately need. A shutdown corner, C.J. Henderson's just a great move. On to number 11, I'm giving Andrew Thomas to the New York Jets. You could say wide receiver here is a bigger need, but I think protecting Sam Darnold and allowing the wide receivers to get open is the bigger need, especially in this draft. You're going to see a lot of wide receivers fall just because it's a deep wide receiver class. There's going to be guys in the mid-round, in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round that are going to be legit players, legit wide receivers in the NFL. So I think they take the tackle here. Andrew Thomas is perhaps the best tackle in this draft. Really, you could make an argument for any one of the top 3. But Thomas, he was a 4-year starter. He can play both left and right tackle. He's flexible. He's athletic. And he'd be a really good fit for the Jets at 11. On to 12, CeeDee Lamb to the Raiders. I don't want to spend too much time on this one. I think it's a great match. CeeDee Lamb is probably one of the most explosive wide receivers in this draft class. And with that said, he's a really good fit for the Raiders. Just because he makes acrobatic, contested catches on a routine basis. he breaks tackles, and he's one of the stronger wide receivers in this draft class, and he kind of is the do it all wide receiver to put alongside Tyrell Williams for whoever's throwing to him, if it's Marcus Mariota or Derek Carr. So Lamb to the Raiders, I think you can almost pencil it in unless someone trades up in front. 13, Jerry Jeudy to the 49ers. I think this is another easy sort of pick. Judy's the best route runner in the class. He's quick. He's almost impossible to bring down in the open field. He's kind of like LaShawn. I mean, he's not LaShawn McCoy, but you know what I mean by that. Imagine him and Deebo Samuel. That'd be absolutely ridiculous for Jimmy Garoppolo to throw to, especially with George Kittle too in the passing game. So Jeudy to the 49ers at 13. On to 14. This was the trade with Tampa Bay. Mekhi Becton is kind of reminding me of a Laramie Tunsil situation, and I think the Dolphins could capitalize on that thing once again. Becton had a flagged drug test at the combine. However, there's no it's coming sources are saying that he didn't ever fail a drug test in college, so it shouldn't be that much of an issue. Also, we've seen the Dolphins in the past, especially with Laramie Tunsil, as I noticed, have gone and taken guys that they might have not been 100% sure were surefire picks, but the dude's a monster. He bullies people in pass protection. He moves like someone that should weigh way less than he actually does. He's very quick for his size, and he's a beast. He's dominant. He's a force to be reckoned with. And with that Miami Dolphins O-line looking absolutely terrible, like almost in shambles, I think it is necessary for the Dolphins to go and get their left tackle of the future, Mekhi Becton. On to 15, Henry Ruggs to the Denver Broncos. I think this is another easy pick here. He's going to be the fastest person on the field, and especially with the lack of wide receivers on that Denver Broncos team, Drew Lock is going to have a field day throwing to Henry Ruggs. Ruggs is super quick. He can get around corners. He can run by them, and Lock with his big arm can definitely make those throws. Ruggs can do it all. He can be on short, intermediate, and so obviously the deep routes. But Ruggs really is a great player. On to 16 with the trade down with Xavier McKinney. I'm sorry that I did not put the trade button there. But in the trade that gave Atlanta C.J. Henderson, I think Xavier McKinney goes to the Browns as that corner prospect. As that safety prospect of the future. He's a top talent. He can line up as a deep safety. He can be in the slot. He can play as a linebacker. He can play in the block. He can play in the box. He's a good tackler. That's the problem with him and Delpit. Really, the main difference is that there's not really an issue about him tackling. That's why he's probably the number one safety in the class. But with that said, I think he's a really good fit in the Browns' defense. Another need they have is offensive tackle. But I think they can go and deal with that in the second round or later in the draft, because there are some really good second-round offensive tackles available, especially at their pick, which I believe is 41. So McKinney, 16 to the Browns. A.J. Terrell going 17 to the Cowboys. Here's my thinking. Terrell is there's been some news that he could 100% move up into that top half of the first round as teams are really interested in him. I know you guys are going to be like, he was terrible in the national championship game, and he got torched up. But he's long, he's athletic. He ran a 4.42 at the combine, and he's fast on tape. And he's a good cover corner who's super good in press. So I think the Cowboys, especially with Byron Jones, who was the fourth best corner according to PFF in coverage, get another great coverage corner to replace him in A.J. Terrell. So on to number 18 with the trade with the Dolphins. And they get Javon Kinlaw, which would be an absolute steal at number 18. I think he's going to probably go in the top half of the draft. And 18's very, very late for him. But it's possible that he does fall. He's an elite pass rusher. He's super strong. He muscles his way through. He's athletic. He's good size. He can play anywhere along the D-line, and that's exactly what the Lions need. On to number 19, Christian Fulton, corner out of LSU. Fulton is one of the better corners in the draft, and he's definitely filling a need that the Raiders have at corner here. They dealt with the wide receiver problem. Now they're going to deal with the corner problem. He excels in press to man coverage. He's almost rarely out of position at the top of routes. And he's very close to wide receivers. He's able to get there, and that's what he is. The only knock on him, or one of the knocks on him, is that he ran a 4.46, but there's still questions about his ability to stay on wide receivers, especially on deep routes. But Fulton's a good fit here at 19 with the Raiders. On to 20, Delpit to the Jags. Fixing their secondary is something that's definitely going to need to happen at some point with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Delpit is the perfect guy to do that. Earlier in the season, you would have seen him as high as the top 5 in mock drafts, and you know that he has that ability. Delpit is a big ball hawking safety. He's able to get to the ball, and he's able to make plays. The one knock on him, as I said earlier, was that he has problems with tackling at times. But I think if he can clean that up, and guys typically clean that up, he'll be a great pick at 20. On to 21, Justin Jefferson. I love this pick here for the Eagles. So if I'm the Eagles, this is literally who I'm penciling in if he falls to him. He's a perfect match. He's a huge catch radius. He's awesome. He's a quarterback's best friend, making plays all over the field, being a consistent route runner. And you saw what he did for Joe Burrow last year, so Justin Jefferson would be awesome for Carson Wentz in that Eagles offense that desperately needs a wide receiver. On to 22, Jeff Gladney to the Vikings. They need a wide receiver and they need a corner. However, I think they can wait on a wide receiver because there are probably less good corners in this draft. And I think Gladney is one of those good corners. From TCU, he plays much bigger than his 5'10", 191 suggests. He's a willing tackler and run support. He's going to be that great corner that the Vikings are looking for to revamp that secondary that was struggling. So Jeff Gladney to the Vikings at 22. 23, Zach Bond to the Patriots. I know that there are better linebacker edge prospects available at this point. However, I love Zach Bond to the Patriots. To me, it seems almost like the perfect match. He's much bigger and faster and stronger than his size. This is like the exact guy that Bill Belichick likes in his defense. He lost Kyle Van Noy and Jamie Collins, and this is kind of that replacement. He gets after the passer. And he was very hard to stop at Wisconsin. He's a little bit undersized, but he gets the job done. And I think Bill Belichick would love to have him on his defense. 24, Patrick Queen. A little bit more of a polished linebacker prospect. One a little bit higher on my board. But Queen out of LSU really showed what he could do last year for the Tigers. He was all over the field for them. He gets the ball quickly. He's a quick first step, great bursts, and he's able to sniff out screens with ease. He doesn't really intercept a lot of passes, but as a linebacker, you're not always looking for that. You're just looking for someone who's physical, and that's exactly what Patrick Queen is. On to 25, I'm giving Brandon Alyuk to the Vikings here at 25. Alyuk is a better prospect than N'Keal Harry was coming out of Arizona State last year. He's a 4-down player. He's explosive. He can play as a returner. He dominates a 1v1 coverage. He's quick. He can get around corners, and he can score from anywhere on the field. So I think Alyuk would be awesome to have opposite of Adam Thielen and fill the gap that Stephon Diggs' departure leaves. 26, Jalen Johnson of Utah, I believe, will be going to the Lions here. Jalen Johnson is an interesting player. Teams might be starting to put on his radar because he's super aggressive, he's super confident, he's an above-average twitch, he's calm in coverage, and he makes plays. He just simply makes plays, and that's what the Lions need after Darius Slay's departure. So I think that the Lions will take Utah's Jalen Johnson. T. Higgins to the Colts 27. I'm projecting a trade with the Seahawks. It's been rumored that the Seahawks are okay with trading out of their 27 spot and moving down to 34, where the Colts pick is. I think that's something well within reasonable expectations. T. Higgins is one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic. He goes up and gets the ball. He's a 50-50 catch machine, and he's a red zone target for whoever's playing quarterback in that offense. Probably will be Rivers, but we'll see if they end up taking a quarterback in this draft and in the years to come. He'll be great across from T.Y. Hilton. On to 28, Kenneth Murray, linebacker from Oklahoma. Baltimore also needs a wide receiver, however, as I said, super large wide receiver draft, super deep wide receiver draft. So I think they press, they use their first round pick for a more pressing issue with Kenneth Murray. Murray, he's sideline to sideline speed. He's a tackling machine. He's all over the football field. He's explosive. He's exactly what the Baltimore defense needs. So Murray, 28 to the Ravens is a good pick. 29, K'Lavon Chaisson probably will not fall here to the Titans, but if he does, he would be very, very, very happy to do so. Getting on a team that has some really good promise. But more on Chaisson is that he's quick. He gets to the passer. He plays well against the top competition. The one knock on him is that he wasn't the most consistent player. At times, he was better than at other times. You couldn't always rely on him, but he's a really good prospect, one of the better edge defensive prospects. Another guy you might see here drop would be a guy like AJ Epinesa. So maybe they take Epinesa. Epinesa's probably a little bit higher, was better in college, but his combine was absolutely atrocious for his standards. So I think he's dropping a little bit. But Chaisson to the Titans here at 29 is a good move. 30, Jalen Reagor from TCU to the Green Bay Packers. Reagor is quick. He's probably the fastest wide receiver in this draft. He's athletic. He can score from anywhere, and he'd be great in that Green Bay offense across from Devontae Adams. With Aaron Rodgers trying to throw the ball downfield, Jalen Reagor gives him space, stretches the field, and I think he'd be awesome in that offense. 31, I'm giving the Chiefs Noah Igbenogany. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But the corner from Auburn comes from a track background, so he's fast. He's physical, and he's a solid corner that I think the Chiefs could be able to put into that defense. On to 32, Trayvon Diggs out of Alabama to San Francisco. For me here, San Francisco could also take a defensive tackle, maybe like Ross Blacklock, but probably they want someone across from Richard Sherman, and Trayvon Diggs is a good player to do that. Maybe at the time of recording, there have been some things that have said that he is a second or third round grade on him from some teams, but really, if you look at his tape, he was excellent at Alabama. So I kind of had to sneak him into the first round here. On to 33. This is going to be my second round. I'm going to just pick a few things to talk about from each slide here. But on to 33, let's just talk about the Bengals rather, getting Josh Jones. The tackle from Houston. Jones, if the Dolphins don't actually end up trading for that third overall pick, that 26th pick or even that 18th pick could be a place where Jones could fall. However, I think Jones takes a dive without the Dolphins needing an offensive tackle in the latter part of the first round. He's athletic for his size. He's smooth. He's great in pass protection. He'd be great for that Bengals offensive line that needs to protect Joe Burrow. I also want to talk about AJ Epinesa. As I said a little bit earlier, Epinesa is a beast. He's an absolute animal. At least if you watch his tape, that's what you can see. He was very, very, very solid at Iowa. However, as I said, his combine did not match what his tape did. He's powerful. He sets the edge in the run game, and he can get to the passer. He'd be great for the Seahawks here, especially if they traded down to 34 and still got him. I also want to talk about Cesar Ruiz, the guard from Michigan, going to the Dolphins at 39. We know all about the Dolphins' problems with the need on their offensive line. And they also need a safety here too, but I chose Ruiz here as they Bobby McCain and Eric Rowe, who are expected to play safety, who are both naturally corners, and I think that means that safety is a problem that might have to wait until the third round when guys like maybe Jeremy Chin or Duggar, maybe I don't know if Ashton Davis will fall that far, but guys like that will fall too. But at 39, I project Cesar Ruiz. He's athletic. He can play. He's run game specialist, which I think the Dolphins kind of want to do. They kind of want to run the ball. He's light on his feet. He's solid anchor. And more about the running the football. He allows running the football allows other aspects of the offense to open up, and I think that's what the Dolphins want to do. He is lined up as a center, but he can play as an offensive guard too. So I think he'd be a great pick for the Dolphins. Also notice Ross Blacklock at 40 to the Texans. I don't think he'll fall that far, but that'd be a good pick to really secure that defensive line for the Texans. On to the next little bit. I want to talk especially about picks 43 through 45. Lloyd Cushenberry to the Bears at 43 is a notable pick for the Bears. They obviously have a little bit of an offensive line issue, and Cushenberry can definitely help solve that. He's kind of a mauler. He obviously played at LSU, so his experience in a very pass oriented offense would help him in the NFL, especially as a pass protector. He's really strong. He's a great fit for the Bears there at 43. On to 44 with Jordan Love. I don't know if he'll fall this far, but Love would be an absolutely epic player for the Colts to be able to get at 44. He'd probably be a steal down there. Love, when it's all said and done, he's a prospect. That's the best word for him. He can make every throw on the field. He's a great arm. He's just so inconsistent. Like he's one of the most inconsistent players that you'll see. He's athletic. He's dynamic. But he's kind of not inexperienced, but he's unpredictable. And I think that's why he will fall this far. But I think he'd be good for the Colts just as as kind of like a flyer pick almost in the second round. With Philip Rivers going to be retiring soon, I don't think Jacoby Brissett will be the long-time answer, but Jordan Love could definitely learn in Indianapolis behind Philip Rivers, who obviously is going to be a future Hall of Famer, or in my eyes, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. As well as he'll learn from Jacoby Brissett, who learned from Tom Brady. So there's some good quarterbacking ties there in Indianapolis. On to 45, I want to talk quickly about DeAndre Swift, who is my top running back in the draft. This is not necessarily the best running back draft, but the top 5 running backs being DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Cam Akers are all solid running backs. However, there's not like one super top, definitely going to be in the first round running back. If there is one, it'd be DeAndre Swift. And at 45, I think he's a really good value for the Buccaneers. Swift at Georgia was really great, and I think he'd be good in that Tampa Bay offense that is missing a running back. And they've missed a really good running back since Doug Martin. So what does Swift give them? He's a one cut and go runner. He's a weapon in the pass game. He kind of like being a weapon in the pass game. We know what Tom Brady likes to do, especially with James White. What he did there in New England. So I think DeAndre Swift could be a really good value pick here at 45 to, give Tom Brady another weapon down there. Open the run game, which opens up the passing game. And pair him with Tristan Wirfs in the first round, and I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans will be loving life. Quick word on Antoine Winfield Jr. At 50 that I project him going to the Bears. I don't think he'll fall that far. I think a team will trade up and try and get him. However, I didn't really know where to put him. So Winfield is one of the better safety prospects in this draft. Obviously after the top 2 in Delpit and McKinney. Winfield has a great football IQ. He gets to the football and he attacks the run game, and he would be really good in that Bears secondary that struggled at times last year. I'm going to talk about Ashton Davis at 51. Davis is also another one of those better safety prospects. You might say that Davis might be above Winfield on some teams' boards because of his freakish athleticism. He was also a former track star. Um, like like so he's a really good player. He's able to cover a lot of ground, and he'd be a good pick for the Cowboys at 51. Moving on to 55 with Tyler Biadasz. Biadasz is going to fill the gap that Marshall Yonda's departure leaves. That's why I put him there at 55. He played at Wisconsin. He's one of my favorite offensive line prospects in this draft, and I think he's something that the Baltimore Ravens really need. He is a great run blocker. He's very powerful, and he can get out of his stance and across to block really quickly. He's good power, and he'd be a really good fit for the Baltimore Ravens at 55. On to 56 with J.K. Dobbins to the Dolphins. I like J.K. Dobbins as the number 2 running back in this draft. I know some people have Jonathan Taylor higher up their list, but Dobbins is he's well built. He runs very hard, and he's powerful. He's also a one-cut runner like DeAndre Swift, and he flashes ability to make multiple cuts, but he's more of a one cut runner. That's what he is. He's powerful. He'd be great for the Dolphins, who need a run game going that they really didn't have last year at all. On to the next picks here. I really want to talk about 62 and 64 mostly. 62, Cole Kmet. I don't know how to pronounce that last name, but he's probably the best tight end prospect in this draft. Out of Notre Dame, we know what the Packers have needed for a while now, being a tight end that can really just play the game. They had Jimmy Graham last year, but there hasn't really been a tight end that's worked in their system for a really long time, especially under Aaron Rodgers. He's a big target. He's dynamic. He has strong hands and a large catch radius. He's a big target that hopefully Aaron Rodgers can utilize at 62. On to 64, I wanted to change some things up here. The Patriots after their first round pick at number 23, their next pick isn't until like 87, I think. And then they have a pick in the 90s. But Hurts here is worth the trade up, right? They have Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham, and they've kind of pledged their allegiance to Jarrett Stidham. However, I think throwing a Heisman candidate quarterback into the locker room is something worth trading up for. Jalen Hurts, I think, should be going a lot higher. But teams don't seem to be as big on him as I am, I guess. I think he's a first round talent. Like, to me, he's first round skill sets. He's kind of a toned down Kyler Murray to me, especially also playing at Oklahoma. He's all the skills that he needs. It's just that the media isn't very big on him, as well as what it looks like that teams aren't that big on him. However, I'm a big fan. He's athletic. He can get out make throws downfield. He's a really good leader. That's what if you're looking for things off the football field too, Jalen Hurts really shows what it means to be a Heisman candidate in really all aspects. So that's the draft. I hope you enjoyed. Comment down below what you thought of how I drafted for your team. You can grade me down below, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.